7 signs you've got the dual power of both dark and light bodies. There's a small group of us walking this earth who weren't built for one side of the spectrum. We weren't born to be entirely light, nor were we born to live only in shadow. We came into this world to embody both, to carry the dual current of power that flows from the highest realms of light and the deepest chambers of darkness. If you're watching this, chances are you've always felt different, not just emotionally or mentally, but energetically. You felt the pull of both extremes, one side calling you to heal, to uplift, to love with boundless compassion, while the other drags you down into the depths of your own rage, raw truth, and destructive clarity. And you felt torn, conflicted, asking yourself, how can I be both? How can I feel so utterly divine one moment and then so devastatingly primal the next? That's the riddle only a dual-bodied soul can understand. Those of us who carry this duality don't live normal lives. We can't, because our existence is an initiation. Every relationship, every job, every emotion, every spiritual practice becomes a lesson in learning how to hold both energies without being consumed by either. Most people are taught that light is good and dark is bad, that love heals and anger destroys, that to ascend we must shed our shadows. But what if that's a lie designed to keep you from your full power? What if the truth is that your greatest strengths lie not in choosing one side, but in mastering both?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first sign you've got the dual power of dark and light bodies is this: you feel everything intensely, not just emotionally, but energetically, physically, spiritually. You can walk into a room and instantly know whether the energy is clean or distorted. You can feel someone smiling while secretly hating themselves. You can feel when someone's words are sweet, but their intentions are sour. And it's not just about sensing it, you absorb it. You walk away from certain people or spaces feeling drained, heavy, even ill. That's because your body is a tuning fork for truth, and it cannot withstand lies whether they're spoken or unspoken. Your light body detects the frequency of purity, while your dark body recognizes the presence of manipulation. You don't just feel energy, you read it. And sometimes that ability feels like a curse. But it's not. It's your first key to unlocking your purpose. The second sign is that you've lived through extremes. You've seen both heaven and hell often in the same day. You've known bliss and despair intimately. You've danced with love so deep it cracked your soul open, and you've faced betrayal so sharp it nearly ended you. You've touched the divine through meditation, nature, or art, and then fallen into depression, rage, or numbness days later. This is not spiritual instability. This is energetic elasticity. Your soul came here to stretch, to expand in all directions, because only a soul that has touched both ecstasy and agony can truly understand the human experience and, more importantly, transform it. You weren't meant to live in balance. You were meant to embody polarity, and your life reflects that, whether you've accepted it yet or not. The third sign: people project onto you constantly. Some adore you, others fear you, but very few see you clearly. You walk into people's lives as a mirror, and what they see in you depends entirely on what they're denying in themselves. Your light body reflects their potential, their innocence, their divinity. Your dark body reflects their wounds, their shame, their repressed truth. And most people aren't ready for that kind of reflection, so they either idolize you or demonize you. They try to possess you or push you away. They want your energy, but they don't want what your energy reveals. And that leaves you feeling misunderstood, isolated, even punished for simply existing. But that's the cost of carrying dual power. You're not digestible. You're not safe. You're transformative. And transformation is rarely comfortable. Let me ask you something that most people never even think about. Have you ever felt like you were living multiple lives in one? Like there was the version of you that's radiant, loving, wise, and another that's raw, primal, even dangerous. And somehow both are true. You don't fit into traditional spiritual boxes. You're not just a healer, or a shadow worker, or a mystic. You're something ancient. Something that remembers the temples where gods of light and goddesses of death sat on the same throne, where creation and destruction were two hands of the same being. That's who you are. You're not here to choose sides. You're here to restore the balance between them. And here's the fourth sign: you've always felt like you were born for something massive, even when life was falling apart, even when you were homeless, heartbroken, or suicidal, even when you hated yourself. Deep down, there was always this knowing, this echo inside your bones that whispered, "You're not done. You haven't even started." And no matter how many times you tried to give up, something pulled you back. That wasn't delusion. That was your contract. Your soul made a vow before it came here to hold the dual current of light and dark, not just for yourself, but for the collective, to become a living bridge between what most people separate. And when you remember that vow, everything begins to make sense, all the pain, all the chaos, all the gifts. But there's more, because this dual embodiment isn't just about energy, it's about responsibility. You can't carry both frequencies and use them recklessly. You can't manipulate people with your shadow or spiritually bypass with your light. You have to walk the razor's edge of integrity. You have to know when to destroy illusions and when to heal wounds, when to speak fire and when to hold silence. That's the level of mastery you're being called into, because your presence is not neutral. It shifts rooms, it shakes foundations, and if you're not aware of what you're radiating, you can burn down what you were meant to rebuild. This is just the beginning. There are more signs, more truths, and more power waiting for you to unlock. But first, you have to accept this: you are not one thing. You are the entire spectrum. And the world is starving for that kind of soul. The sacred violence of truth, how your dual power destroys illusion and awakens the real. There's a kind of truth that doesn't whisper. It doesn't come gently, wrapped in comforting words or soft smiles. It arrives like a storm, like a sword, like a scream that shatters glass. And if you carry the dual power of both light and dark bodies, you've probably realized by now that you are the vessel of that kind of truth, the sacred violence of it. The truth that doesn't just illuminate, it burns. It doesn't just awaken, it destroys. And most people aren't ready for that. They want enlightenment without disruption, awakening without loss, expansion without pain. But you came here to break the dream, to tear through the veil of illusion with such intensity that people around you are forced to choose, evolve, or retreat. This is the fifth sign of your dual embodiment. Your presence is disruptive, but not in a toxic way, in a sacred way. You don't even have to speak for people to feel it. You walk into a room and the vibration changes. Conversations shift, masks slip. People get nervous, or they get emotional, or they suddenly open up about things they've buried for decades. Why? Because your energy doesn't allow illusions to rest. Your light body radiates clarity. Your dark body radiates confrontation. You bring people face to face with the parts of themselves they've been avoiding. And when you speak, you often say things no one else dares to say, not because you want to offend, but because your soul refuses to lie. There's a violence in truth when it meets a world built on denial. But it's a necessary violence, the kind that rips away the false so that the real can finally breathe. And when your soul carries both light and dark, you are the surgeon and the fire. You don't just heal with softness, you heal with precision, with ferocity, with the kind of honesty that leaves people shaking and grateful at the same time. That's why people are drawn to you and terrified of you in equal measure. They know you see them, not just who they pretend to be, but who they really are. And that kind of visibility is rare, sacred, dangerous. Have you ever noticed how people confess things to you without knowing why? How they break down in your presence, even when you haven't said much? That's not coincidence. That's resonance. Your dual frequency reaches into the subconscious. It bypasses the ego and goes straight to the soul. And the soul remembers you. It remembers your role not as a comforter, but as a waker. You are the one who comes when it's time to wake the dead parts of others. Not with soft lullabies, but with thunder. And that's not cruelty. That's devotion. You love too deeply to let people stay asleep. But here's the paradox. Because your power is so intense, you've probably been told you're too harsh, too blunt, too intense. Maybe you've tried to dim your frequency just to keep relationships intact. Maybe you've learned to cushion your words, to hold back your knowing, to filter your fire. But let me ask you this, has it ever worked? Has silencing your truth ever brought you peace? Or has it only made you sick, small, and resentful? You were not designed to be digestible. You were designed to be transformational, and transformation requires courage, yours and theirs. Still, with great power comes great accountability. Because if you're not grounded, your truth can become a weapon. You must learn to discern not every moment is a battlefield, not every silence needs to be filled with fire. You must learn to read the room, not to shrink, but to know when to strike. Your dark body gives you the power to cut. Your light body gives you the wisdom to know when and how. Together they make you a being of rare mastery, a soul who can destroy illusions with love. That's the sacred violence of truth. Not destruction for the sake of chaos, but destruction for the sake of awakening. Here's the thing no one tells you about being this kind of soul. It's lonely at first, because most people aren't ready to be seen this deeply. They'll project onto you, call you arrogant, cold, judgmental, but that's their fear speaking, fear of being pierced, fear of being exposed. But the few who are ready, they will find you, they will feel you, and they will thank you not for making them comfortable, but for making them real. That's your true tribe. The ones who don't just want light, they want fire. They want to evolve, and your dual power gives them permission to do exactly that. So no, your power isn't too much. It's too rare. And yes, it comes with responsibility. But that responsibility is sacred. You are given eyes that see through illusion, a voice that speaks what others only think, and an energy that rearranges everything it touches. Use it wisely. Use it fiercely. And most of all, use it in service of truth, because truth is what sets souls free. And that's what you came here to do. The alchemy of wholeness, why you were never meant to choose between shadow and light. You were never meant to choose. That's the secret they never told you. In every spiritual system, every religious path, every mystical tradition, there's an unspoken, often toxic suggestion that you must pick a side. Worship the light, suppress the dark. Be loving, kind, radiant, forgiving, and if you feel anger or lust or grief or power, you should transmute it, banish it, or pretend it doesn't exist. But what if that's the very lie that has kept us fragmented? What if the path to true power, true healing, true enlightenment is not in choosing light over dark, but in choosing wholeness? This is the sixth sign you carry the dual power of both light and dark bodies. You feel pulled in two directions, but you know deep down that both are you. You've tried to be only light, gentle, compassionate, selfless. It worked for a while. People loved you. You were praised for being high vibrational. But inside, something felt off. You felt hollow, drained, like you were leaking energy trying to maintain an image that didn't tell the whole story. Then maybe you swung to the other side. You let the shadow speak. You claimed your anger, your ambition, your sexuality, your depth. That felt powerful, real, but even there something was missing. because neither side alone is the whole truth. The truth is that your soul is a fusion point, a sacred paradox. You are the light that heals and the dark that transforms, the sun that nurtures and the storm that clears. You are not divided. You are designed to hold both. And the path you're on isn't about choosing one and rejecting the other. It's about alchemizing them into something greater. That's what most people can't comprehend. They think light is good and dark is evil. But in reality, light is clarity and expansion. Dark is depth and truth. You need both to be whole. You need both to create, to lead, to love, to evolve. Have you ever noticed that your greatest moments of growth came when your shadow met your light? When your wounded inner child was held by your divine inner parent? When your rage was honored, not repressed, and it became a sword of justice instead of a weapon of chaos? That is alchemy. That is the moment when two opposing forces stop fighting and start dancing. And when they do, something ancient awakens. A third force, a third eye, a third path. This isn't balance. This is wholeness. And wholeness is the birthplace of true power. People fear wholeness because it's not performative. It's not pretty. It's not easy to control. A whole being cannot be manipulated. They can't be guilted or shamed into submission. They don't need to be liked. They don't seek approval. They know who they are. And that's what you're becoming. Not a master of light or dark, but a master of integration. And that's the most dangerous and sacred thing you can be. Let me ask you something you may never have asked yourself. What part of you are you still rejecting? What emotion, memory, gift, or instinct are you still labeling as too much, not spiritual or unsafe? Because that is the exact piece you need to reclaim. That's the missing ingredient in your alchemy. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is your unloved genius. Your light is not your savior. It is your clarity amplifier. The two are not at war, they're waiting for you to unify them. And here's the most practical part. This alchemy doesn't just live in theory. It lives in your body, in your habits, in your choices. When you feel a strong emotion, don't label it, listen to it. When you feel the urge to dim your light or hide your truth to be accepted, pause and ask, which part of me am I betraying right now? When someone triggers you, instead of reacting or running, breathe and feel where that energy lives in your body. That discomfort is gold. That's your shadow asking to be seen by your light. And when you sit with it without judgment, it begins to shift. That's the work. That's the alchemy. It's not glamorous. It's not always Instagrammable. But it's real. And it's liberating. You didn't come here to ascend out of your body. You came here to descend into your full embodiment. To become so whole that your very presence reminds others of what they've forgotten. That they are not broken. That their darkness is sacred. That their light is real. That they too can hold both. You came here to walk as a living paradox. As creation and chaos. As love and fire. As the divine human. And the more you live from that wholeness, the more magnetic you become, not because you're trying to be anything, but because wholeness is rare. It's real. And it speaks to the soul of others in a way no performance ever could. You become a frequency, a tuning fork for others to find their own integration. That's why you're here. That's why you've been through everything you've been through. Not to become perfect, but to become whole. The activation of destiny, why your dual nature is the key to your soul's mission. You didn't come here to play small. You didn't incarnate to live a quiet, forgettable life. If you carry the dual power of both dark and light bodies, you were born for something far more potent activation. You are not just here to heal yourself. You are here to ignite the world. Your existence is not random. It is coded. Every scar, every gift, every contradiction within you is not a flaw, it's a map to your soul's mission. And your mission begins the moment you stop trying to be something you're not and start embodying everything you are. This is the seventh and final sign. You are a catalyst, not just in theory, but in action. Your energy provokes transformation. You've seen it happen. People meet you and their lives shift. They quit jobs, leave toxic relationships, awaken gifts they didn't know they had, face truths they've avoided for years. And you didn't even do anything. You simply were. You were the mirror their soul had been waiting for. The presence that made it impossible to keep lying to themselves. That's the kind of power you hold. It's not always comfortable. It's rarely convenient. But it's real. And it's time you start honoring it. Your dual nature is not a burden, it's the key that unlocks your purpose. Because those who carry both light and dark frequencies aren't just here to observe the world. We're here to rebuild it, to tear down what's fake and construct what's true, to replace performance with presence, superstition with sovereignty, fear with embodied remembrance. That is your role. Not to fit in, not to fix others, but to activate the timeline you were born to lead. And the more you resist your own depth, the longer that timeline stays dormant. You've probably noticed by now that life doesn't let you coast. You can't hide in comfort for long. Every time you try to play small, something erupts inside or outside. That's not punishment. That's pressure from your own soul. You didn't sign up for safety. You signed up for impact. And impact requires embodiment. It requires you to own your frequency. Not just when you're alone, not just when you're meditating, but in public, in relationships, in leadership, in creation. The world doesn't need more people who've mastered the art of pretending to be spiritual. It needs people who are willing to live as soul in motion, raw, real, radiant, and rooted. Let me ask you something that only your soul can answer. What are you still waiting for? Permission? Proof? A sign? This right now is your sign. The very fact that you're still listening, still absorbing, still feeling this transmission proves that your soul is ready. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to say yes to who you already are. And once that yes leaves your lips, energetically or physically, everything changes. You begin to magnetize the next steps. You begin to remember the mission, not in words, but in knowing, in impulse, in calling, in divine urgency. And yes, the world will challenge you. It will test your embodiment. It will send you people and situations that try to drag you back into fragmentation. But here's the difference. Now you know. Now you've remembered. Now you see. You're not just a person trying to find peace. You are a portal through which peace, power, and truth enter this dimension. And the more you live from that understanding, the more the universe aligns with you. Not because you're forcing it, but because you're finally resonating with your original frequency. You are the storm and the stillness, the fire and the water, the healer and the destroyer. And your destiny is not to choose between them, but to activate them in harmony. This is the era of return. This is the time when those of us who came to carry the full spectrum must rise. Not above others, but into ourselves, fully, fiercely, freely. So take a deep breath. Feel your body. Feel your shadow. Feel your light. Accept them both. And know this, your life is not just a series of events. It's a living transmission. You are the prophecy. You are the vessel. You are the flame. And the world is finally ready for you.